The following is a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio. Want the real story behind the sound bites and headlines? Let's find the facts. Remember, it's not a conspiracy theory if it's the truth. You are not paranoid or confused. You just need to know.
Welcome in, everybody. Here we go. Another Need to Know. And gosh, there's a lot of things you need to know. And I found out in my last 4 or 5 days of running around the country, predominantly in Las Vegas. And people say, you got to go to Las Vegas? Wow, that must have been great. Well, let me just tell you, the Strip is in Las Vegas. I was there from Friday afternoon until Monday morning. I did not see the Strip. I did not visit the Strip. I did not hear rumors about the Strip. I was out in the suburbs because the reason I was in Vegas wasn't to drink or party or gamble or bet on football or any of those fun things or go to questionable shows. I was there for my 4-year-old grandson's birthday. So my mission was a little different than the standard Vegas situation. I did incorporate a few adult beverages along the way and indulged in some pretty heavy-duty football viewing, but it was a little bit different, a suburban Las Vegas. And when I do tell people that my son and daughter-in-law and grandson live in Vegas, they always kind of get this quizzical look on their face. They live in Vegas? But this just in case you're not aware, about 10 miles out of town, it is shopping centers and restaurants and gas stations and, different entertainment attractions that are not related to gaming and questionable shows. It's the suburbs, and it's like any place else. They've had a great inflection of pro sports in recent years. The Las Vegas Raiders are in Las Vegas now. The Oakland A's will be moving to Las Vegas to start hopefully the 2027 season, but by no later than 2028, they're tearing down the old Tropicana Hotel on the Strip and building a brand new multi-billion-dollar dome stadium for the A's to play in, since they play now in the Oakland Alameda Coliseum, which is on the verge of being condemned. It's so old and decrepit. So the A's will be coming to join the Raiders. You've got the Las Vegas Golden Knights of the National Hockey League, who have already won a Stanley Cup. You got all kinds of college basketball tournaments, hockey tournaments. The city is just on fire for sports. It is the worldwide headquarters for UFC, Ultimate Fighting Championships, which is unbelievably successful. They've got a card coming up this week in the new $2 billion Sphere. That's going to be an extravaganza. It's just going to be epic, because when you go to events at the Sphere, it is a giant circle, the biggest cylindrical structure on Earth. Again, it costs $2 billion to build. It's sitting adjacent to the Venetian Hotel. You have to see it to kind of just grasp what it's all about, because everything that's happening in front of you down on the stage or where the giant screen is, if you're watching some kind of film, and think of this as kind of IMAX on steroids. Most IMAX films are shot in anywhere from 4 to 8K. My technically versed son declared that when I said, God, the clarity of this, because I think it's no secret that I've got some vision issues. I spent the morning today at the neural ophthalmologist, and I was just telling Tony before the show, it's a hell of a note when you go in with limited vision and they put these drops in your eyes to dilate your pupils, and then you have no vision. So let me go to the eye doctor to get my eyes checked so they can completely blind me here. Anyway, the Sphere, the resolution on not only the screen, but it moves above your head. It moves all around you. You're surrounded by it. Is so much more clear. It's unbelievable. And I said that to my son. He goes, well, you're used to seeing things in 4K This is 17K. I can't even grasp what that means technically, but it has something to do with billions of pixels of light, and it's just an incredible atmosphere. And that for the UFC to be having a fight card at the Sphere, which is really its first sporting event. There's been U2 and the remnants of the Grateful Dead, and I think some of the other bands from Woodstock here. I think the people running it must be turning the clock back. But I'm also hoping to catch a show next month in the Sphere of the Eagles. What's left of them, of course, they lost Glenn Fry a couple of years ago, but now Vince Gill has stepped into the Glenn Fry role and is playing with Don Henley and some of the other remnants of the Eagles, all those guys in their 70s. But I was reading some reviews of some recent shows, and it says they're in great form. So I'm just glad to see any old guy getting to do anything, and was a huge Eagles fan back in the day. So really looking forward to that. But the Sphere, UFC, that's going to be off the hook. Vegas is just the ultimate, not only a city for all the other things it's always been known for, but now it's become a sports mecca. And my son, Case Keefer, the sports editor of the Las Vegas Sun, couldn't have timed his move out west 9 years ago any better, because he's living the dream now, surrounded by all these great sporting opportunities. So that's where I've been goofing off. We're a day late here on the TKR station of getting all of our broadcasts in the can and to you. So if you look for us yesterday, my apologies here on Need to Know. But we're going to give you a rousing program, because we're actually recording now on Tuesday morning, which is the day of the big debate. And yes, tonight in Philadelphia, ding, 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 in this corner, the former president of the United States, Donald J. Trump. And in this corner, we're not going to have a boxing introduction. Let's play the old game show to tell the truth. Contestant number one, what is your name? And tell us about yourself. My name is Kamala Harris. I'm an extreme left-wing wacko fanatic. I believe in big central government taking care of everything people need. I believe in ridiculous up to 80% taxation, no private health care, wide open borders, and that's who I am. Okay, contestant number two, what is your name? And tell us about yourself. My name is Kamala Harris, and I have really seen the light in recent years as vice president. I have not done anything, but I've been paying a lot of attention, and I'm actually running now on a bunch of the platforms that Donald J. Trump has laid out, things like no taxes on tips for employees that count on gratuities for their living. Also, I pledge to make housing more affordable. I plan on day one of my administration to start taking care and slashing these excessive large prices. And that's what I pledge to do. I've got to really tighten up on the law enforcement, restore law and order to this country. These are all my day one plans. Secure the border, even build the wall. Finally, after I said it was immoral and un-American to do such a thing, now that's the platform I'm running on. Okay, contestant number three, what is your name? And tell us about yourself. My name is Kamala Harris, and I am clueless. I don't know what these other two are talking about, but I am a candidate for president of the United States. Vote for me. Don't vote for Trump. Vote for change, even though I'm running against myself because I'm currently in office. This is my administration that I'm campaigning against the policies by urging you to vote for somebody new, even though I am the incumbent currently in office. So at the end of the debate, hopefully, the moderator will say, will the real Kamala Harris please stand up? And maybe we can all find out who's running for president on the Democrat side of the ticket. And, I'm not going to talk a lot about the debate. We'll just let it play out on its own. We've heard nothing from Kamala Harris except for a taped 18-minute interview on CNN a couple of weeks ago where it was softball questions and she answered them with half swings. Her handlers have kept her completely where Joe Biden hid in the basement and didn't talk in the previous presidential election. Kamala Harris has been in plain sight. She just doesn't say anything, doesn't answer questions, doesn't offer any opinions. And I told you last week on Need to Know, the thing that's really bizarre is she, in that interview on CNN, said, well, I just want everyone to know I have not abandoned my values. Well, that was the way that she could convey to the extreme left wingers who would like to completely transform this country and make your tax dollars support all of the wacky things like the green news scam that they're trying to perpetrate, saying just for the low price of about 98 trillion, that's with a T, $98 trillion, we can totally transform this country, get it off fossil fuels, get it off anything that's bad for the environment. For just about $100 trillion, we can make the transition to, being fueled by God knows what, that will be better for the environment and better for the long-term survival of mankind, which, I'm sorry, that's an improper pronoun, humankind at this point. So we don't know who the real candidate is. It's going to be interesting. She's running against her own administration, saying it's time for a change. It would not be a change if the current occupier of the vice presidency becomes the president. That's not a change. That is continuation of this same administration that does not actually make any decisions. Joe Biden, we've all known, if you've listened to this show or paid any attention yourself, knew that he was not in charge of, pardon my French, jack shit. Joe was just looking forward to Thursday so he could take a 5-day weekend at the beach in Delaware. He did show up at the White House sometimes, but they said if he didn't have a productive 10 o'clock to about 2 o'clock period, then he was pretty much done for the rest of the day. Joe Biden has been the greatest fraud ever perpetrated on the American people. And we told you that in the year and a half that we've been on the air here on TKR. If you're paying attention, you knew it. It was not a shock. But people like the current candidate, Kamala Harris, who saw Biden every Wednesday for lunch and supposedly met with him in the Situation Room and talked to him about issues, her week after week after week telling you that Joe Biden is vigorous and vibrant and he can outwork everybody in the whole place. He gets more done in an hour than others get it done in a whole week. We all know now that was total BS. It was all part of the great, the Wizard of Oz, the Trojan horse, whatever comparison you want to make. Joe Biden was a false prophet, a false president, and the cabal, the cartel that's basically been running the government behind the scenes now is trotting out Kamala Harris, who has no experience, who has very little personal commitment. She has always been for whatever can get her career advanced the furthest. And now you've got her saying to her core supporters, my values haven't changed. But the campaign continues, not her. She doesn't verbalize these things. All those Trump positions that I told you about a minute ago, secure borders, crack down on law and order, attack inflation, bring down prices, make housing more affordable. They're actually, the campaign has said that Kamala favors tax cuts, when in the very next breath you see a tape of her just a year ago saying we need massive tax increases and we need to let the Trump tax plan that was implemented in 2018 run out as scheduled in 2025. Guess what that means for me and you? That means our prices, our taxes go through the roof because that was a significant cut. But more importantly than just your personal taxes, the corporate taxes would roll back up double-digit points. And all of a sudden, if we think things cost a lot now, when corporations lose that gigantic tax break they got under the Trump administration, prices are going to be completely out of range for almost anybody to be able to survive without working 2, 3, 4 jobs. And I'm not an alarmist. If you've listened to the show long enough, I don't yell fire in the theater, but I certainly feel responsible for letting you know the reality of the situation. So maybe the real Kamala Harris will come to light tonight, and the real Kamala Harris will stand up. It's going to be fascinating. I'll say quickly about Trump, and I'm sure he's being coached up like crazy to say, look, do not demean her. Do not call her dumb or stupid. Do not attack her and give anybody the ability to say, poor Kamala, this is unfair. This 6'5" bully is making light and ridiculing this hardworking, ambitious woman who's gotten to this point. It would be in Trump's best interest to just talk about one thing: policy. Policy. Policy, policy, and when he's through with that, more policy, because the things that Trump is running on, as opposed to the fake policies of Trump's that Kamala now has her staff. Well, she doesn't have her staff. She's not pulling the strings. She's just the front person to take Biden's place and let the people really running the government, most of them Obama descendants, including the former president himself, they're pulling the strings along with a lot of foreign actors that we don't need involved in our business. But Trump needs to keep it on policy and policy only. No personal attacks, no ridicules. They're going to try to lay that trap for him to go traipsing into. And Trump has been ignorant enough in the past to do that because his ego is greater than the greatest outdoor refuge you can imagine. But I think if he keeps it together and keeps it on business, there's no contest. There's no decision to be made here. If you vote for Kamala Harris, you're voting basically to flush the American dream, the American grandiose experiment. You're voting to flush that down the toilet, because what they want to incorporate is this gigantic kumbaya, everybody's tied for first place, Marxist, government control of your money, your job, your all American industry, all American healthcare, all American energy usage and development. If you want the government to be 100% in charge of your life, tell you where you can go, what you can do, what you can spend your money on, and more importantly, what you must think. What if you want to live in a country like that where you can't give your opinion, you can't do a show like this, you are censored if you make a post on social media and say anything that they find objectionable, they will take it down. They've already done it. If that's the country you want to live in, by all means, support either Kamala 1, 2, or 3, because at the end of the day, they're all the same person. And this is the policy. This is the vision that they have. I want to wrap up this week by telling you about a vision I had on Friday night as I attended the aforementioned King Keefer's 4th birthday party, which was a wild and woolly affair in one of these giant play palace places. Remember the old days where you go to McDonald's and get a cheeseburger and you turn your kid loose in McDonald's playland, and it was like one slide and a thing you could climb a ladder and sit in like some kind of glass or plexiglass bubble for a minute. Maybe some of them more elaborately had some kind of climbing ropes that you could mess around with. Good grief. I have not been in a modern place until last Friday. This thing is massive. This thing has 25 slides. It has all of these climbing things, all of these tunnels and different places to mess around. It's as big as a football field, and it's just a giant apparatus. You can get on these little cars, for better lack of better terms. They look like little 3-wheel mini bikes, and drive them around in circles on a track on the outside of this whole giant facility. And these kids just, for 2.5 hours, just were totally consumed with running up and down and sliding on every slide and doing all the things. And it was really fun to watch that kids that, and you just marvel that, gosh, did I ever really once have that much energy in my life? And if I had 1/100 of this energy? What could I accomplish? So it all goes back to a very interesting concept. As we watched all this, because all the adults, kind of stood off to the side, and every once in a while, one of the dads would go in and go through a tunnel with their kid or go down a slide. Some of the younger dads. But the bottom line is, as I stood there, I found myself at one point between my two sons. I've got Case, who's 37 years old, and Clay, who's 32. They were standing on either side of me, and there was a bunch of people surrounding us having a conversation, which my sons were each engaging in on opposite sides with different people. And I just started kind of looking at them and listening to them. And it dawned on me how impressed I was at how smooth they were, how well spoken, how presentable. Just the fact that they both were meticulously dressed, handsome, confident, successful young men. And it was kind of a aha moment for me, because as I stood there, maybe for one of the first times in my life, I didn't look at them as my boys, my sons, my boys. It was one of the first times that I really was hit by the revelation. I'm looking at two outstanding, exemplary young men, and it was such a cool thing to see them as men and see them as accomplished people and successful and confident as they are. And it really was a moment of I'm not going to say satisfaction, because of course their mother had every bit as much to do with it as I did. But these guys were like looking in some kind of magical looking glass to me. I saw so much of myself in both of them, both in physical appearance and mannerism and speech pattern. And it was just the most gratifying moment of my life. Again, not taking responsibility for who they are, but just knowing that I played a big role in it, of course, from the biological standpoint, but also just through the lifelong opportunity to kind of be there and make sure that they were in position so their dreams could come true. And I got to tell you, anybody who takes fatherhood lightly really needs to have one of those moments, or just be mindful that at some point you're going to have one of those moments where you say, you know what? I might be hard on myself and think I've underachieved and maybe not become everything I could have been. But in that one moment, I felt it was so life affirming, and I felt so gratified to have had the opportunity to be a dad and to take it seriously and to make all the moves possible that I could and do the right things. And as far as I believe, and looking at the results, I'm telling you, it is a life-changing moment, and I have been euphoric thinking about it ever since. So just a word to the wise: if you've got young kids and sometimes it just seems like it's just an exhaustive journey, you're going to have a day where you're going to look at that kid and they're not going to be your kid anymore. They're going to be a grown-up person that you have had a huge influence on, and you have helped make them what they are. And that's really what this life is all about. So any doubts I had about the validity of my own life, maybe not completely erased, but definitely impacted positively as I stood there and just looked back and forth at both of my sons, both of my men. And it was an extremely, extremely special moment. So with that high note, I'm going to sign off on this week's edition of Need to Know. I always appreciate you listening. Would be interested if you want to contact Tony and let him know what your thoughts on the debate were tonight, so he can share those with me maybe next week before we do the broadcast. That would be great. Or you can always hit me up on Twitter at Kip Keefer Radio, at Kip Keefer Radio on Twitter. Would always love to hear your thoughts on the show or anything I ever talk about on Need to Know. Have a great week, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Thanks for Tony for indulging me being a day late, and what a day late and a dollar short or whatever. But whatever I am, I'm glad to come to you, and thanks for listening. We'll be back next week.
This has been a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.